So today we'll talk a little bit about some of our common shoulder blade exercises and some variations. One of the classic ones for rotator cuff and scapula is our T exercise. Get your face down, thumb forward to thumb up, and a little bit of raise coming on up, trying to hit a little bit of our scapular musculature and rotator cuff each way. Kind of one of the classic Blackburn suite, kind of that thought process on it. Usually to get a little extra out of these motions, I'll either do them quadruped or just go to an arm bar with a kettlebell. Because if I go to a quadruped position and I get my arm out to the side, I can actually put it a little more on the opposite leg for the extension. I can assess whether I get a different reaction to my shoulder blade going up and down depending on my obligatory load into my abdomen and kind of my contralateral shoulder blade and my glute. So if I have someone going through a basic T exercise, kind of horizontal abduction motion, and if I add a little extra midsection through the demand and actually corrects a little bit, I know I might have a little bit more of a stability issue going on further down in the midsection, need to take care of, and I just have a poor base. Might not necessarily be the scapula's fault. And in general, as far as how we want to train the body, when we have the arm in the air, it's more of an open kinetic chain movement, more non-weight bearing. So if we can switch to an arm bar with a kettlebell, dumbbell, whatever, each one has its own, little extra tweaks. I like the kettlebell because we can go bottoms up and we can flip it around to get a little extra demand onto the backside musculature of the cuff and the scapula. When we get into an arm bar, we can actually activate more of our oblique chains as we go across. And when we have the weight in the air as the fixed point, so we think of ourselves almost like rolling underneath the kettlebell as we go back and forth, it almost makes it, we could almost consider the fixed point being the kettlebell as we roll underneath it. It's kind of can be a weird flip of open and closed kinetic chain and weight bearing, non-weight bearing, as far as like kind of like a little bit of gray area there. So basically we can see as we go across, if we're using the kettlebell as a fixed point, our scapula has to center underneath it sort of as we have the base in the midsection. So we get kind of like an interesting mix, which is why I think it's probably just a very effective exercise. So to go over a little bit of the arm bar form on that, as we get into it, and we come on up, one of the nice things we can put into it is our screwdriver maneuver as we go back and forth, so we can kind of rotate through some of the thumb positions easily. And so instead of doing the horizontal abduction, the T exercise face down, as I roll onto the side and I come across, I'm entering into the same position, but I kind of came from the reverse motion. So I end up at the same kind of like workload. I still want to have my shoulder blade engaged in my body, I'm going to have an active cuff. I can kind of do the little rotations back and forth, make sure everything's nice and free. I can throw my head turns too, and then come on back. So as I go back and forth, I'd want to see, do I first have my abdominal base, then have the shoulder blade click, and as I have more of the fixed point and the kettlebell over top, which I'm actually kind of floating underneath, which is kind of like one of the major prompts I give it as I go across. So, the other side. So one of the benefits as we come across rolling, so as I'm going to roll across, as I come across with the top leg, and I activate my first oblique abdominal chain as I come through, as I come across to set my base, and then I have to activate my second oblique abdominal chain to kind of keep the bell centered over top to activate the shoulder blade. I can give a little extra interplay of my midsection to see, is this activated or not? Am I flaring my ribs? Am I losing my oblique sling? Am I not going to have a good base for serratus? Is my lower trap not going to be able to activate? Is that why I'm going to have to go into some downward rotation patterns as I go across? So as I'm coming across to the armbar pattern, gives me a couple extra things to work on and tweak to see, is this why this person's shoulder blade not working well? Even if you want to put a little extra work down the back side of the chain, we can either go to bottoms up, which is always a favorite, gives us a little extra stability back and forth, a little bit of rotation each way on it too, kind of makes things a little more interesting. Or we can even flip it forward a little bit. So now the weight's going to try and pull me this way, so I have to activate a little more into extension, a little more into the horizontal abduction. So even if I come across like so and I have the bell going forward, this is going to try and pull me this way a little bit more. So I still have to get a little bit more of that lower trap, kind of posterior chain activation through the backside rotator cuff also. So by varying that and putting the weight more in the front center, I can get a little different effect on that also. So basically, when it comes to some of the shoulder blade motions, T exercise is okay in some instances, but is either doing it in quadruped or just going to this arm bar drill where we can get a lot of effects with a couple different tweaks on
resistance points and how we're going to move, whether it's arm on body, body on arm, a little bit of variation in weight bearing, non-weight bearing, open and close kinetic chain with where we think our fixed point is and whether we're moving underneath it or if we're pushing the weight one way or the other. You can get a little different reaction down through the body. Big things to work on, especially if the arm bar is not working out too well. A lot of times I'll go to some of the very basic rolling patterns. A lot of times when we get our exercise ball up in the air, we get some of the rolling patterns coming across one way or the other, whether ipsilateral or contralateral, to tune that up. So if I really can't get an arm bar to click in, I'll regress to some of the DNS rolling type things to kind of really build those oblique chains going across before I put a load in the air and try and get that to stabilize. So just a couple ways to tweak some of our scapular training, a couple of different ways to think about it. Hope that made sense. If not, message me. So basically, couple ways to get to the arm bar. We'll try and put a link below for the breakout to some of the ball rolling for some of the deeper oblique abdominal chains, and have fun with it.